Okay, this is obviously Palestinian kids, but obviously this is not a Palestinian village. I mean, it is in the occupied territories of 67, but the reason you know it's not a Palestinian village is because the Palestinians don't have that kind of equipment in order to grow stuff. It's pretty obvious that they don't have any access to that equipment. Settlers who burned down tried to burn down a Palestinian village. Okay, this is the equipment the Palestinian does have, which is a bucket to get out water from the... Wait. Okay, like I said, IDF aren't the only violent people. They're not as violent as settlers. You can see that I was talking to you about the brainwash. See the little kid is like, I don't know, I'm assuming like 6, 7, and he's standing there smiling after we see an adult man attacking a car that has Palestinians and activists in the car. And he's sitting there smiling. They actually, I mean, imagine you being, I don't know, 6, 7, and you're put in this violent situation, and yet you're smiling because you're seeing someone getting humiliated. Basically, that's most settlers. Like I said, demolition of houses. This is kind of how it looks like, and you know that you're standing there, you know that people who stand there right now aren't going to have a place to stay, to sleep in for a long time. Again, checkpoints. Art isn't just on the separation wall, it's all over the villages. The art is usually very, very political. As you can see, a demonstration, this is how most of them looks like. Not all villages have women from the villages in the demonstration. Lately, Nevi Salah, who's been demonstrating for a year, does. Those who do demonstrate every Friday, and those who do have direct action, they do direct actions whenever a bulldozer comes into their town and destroys their schools. It's not just the IDF who is against them and tries to stop the demonstration or the direct actions, it's also a lot of times the Palestinian government. So they've been pressured by everyone to stop demonstrating. The weapons that they use on us on demonstrations, they don't use a lot of live ammunition, and in fact I think that one of the only reasons that the Palestinians invite us to a demonstration is because when we're there, it is less likely that the IDF will use certain ammunition. So they wouldn't use real bullets, the big bullets that you all know, but they will use other ammunition. One of them, for example, is skunk water. Skunk water is just sewer water. It smells like shit. It takes about 3 days to take it off your body, but a few weeks. If someone is spraying that on your home, you're gonna have to sit at home, and your house is going to smell like skunk, like sewer water. And obviously it's very hard to clean, to get rid of that smell once it's at your home. And our house is really close to the fence or to the wall in a lot of villages. So if they have demonstrations, they know that they're at risk. The people who live right next to the wall know that they're at risk to having their house smell really, really awful. That's besides having windows broken from other ammunitions that they use, or having the kid smell the 1-year-old asthmatic baby sit in their crib and smell the tear gas and dying because they're asthmatic. And that's the only person I've ever heard that died from inhaling tear gas. Just a little over a year ago, a guy named Bassam from the village of Berlin received one to the chest, and died pretty much on the spot. A few months later, an Israeli Palestinian guy received one to the head. He didn't die, but he was sent to the hospital, and the media wrote that he was, the IDF official reaction was he was slightly injured. The doctor's reaction was he was injured on a medium level, and my reaction was, holy shit, there is an ambulance crossing just a feet away from me, and it's filled with prints of blood on the entire ambulance. Is just, you could see the blood on the outside. That's the voice cuts. They're so violent on him that they tore up his hands. Rubber bullets aren't really rubber bullets. These are real metal bullets wrapped with rubber, and again, if they shoot you in the head, they can kill you. They're only allowed to shoot at knee high, but obviously they don't, because I know I just before I got here I received one to the back. This is an action we did in the 48 occupied territories. When you walk down the streets of Tel Aviv and Jerusalem, you don't see any part of a fence, you don't see something that blocks your roads. Nothing that says security on, nothing next to your home anyway. We have some army bases, and most of them, at least from the outside, look like any other building with some tiles on it, but nothing major, nothing you can photograph, because it's illegal to photograph a building that, even if it's an army base near your house, you're not allowed to photograph it. To show how masculine the army is, making fun of the whole idea of nationalism, we did that obviously in the 48 occupied territories in Tel Aviv. Basically a lot of stuff like taking out your animals to have food and water. A lot of times those turn into actions, because they have soldiers waiting for them there, and they a lot of times don't want them to be there. A lot of times settlers are attacking them. There is this olive harvest which just a month ago ended in Palestine. It's basically a month where they go out to the olive trees and they collect the olives, and yet those always turns into massive demonstrations and a lot of times riots if they're not prepared. Settlers and soldiers simply decide to attack the Palestinians who go to collect their olives, which is why a lot of times they have Israeli activists and international activists walking them to do that, so there wouldn't be a large risk. During the war in Gaza, basically the people who fly weapons into Israel are Israeli airline companies, and they use their airplanes in order to fly weapons from Europe and from the US. So basically the action was you have blood on your hands. It's not just the IDF soldiers, it's you have blood on your hands too, because you bring in those weapons. The action that I chose that would be my purpose is the BDS. The call for boycott isn't from Israelis, it's from the rest of the world. What the call for boycott from us is basically to not profit from the occupation, and don't give money away to settlers for any institutions that are in the 67 occupied territories, and ask you to boycott, divest and pull sanctions on Israel. Boycott, consumer in boycotts, do not buy any Israeli boycotts. The number, for those of you who don't know, are 927. Don't buy any product that has the number 927 on it. If you want other companies who make money from the occupation, go on Who Profits, which is a project I volunteer in. It's a part of the Coalition of Women for Peace, and it's a project that gives you information about who profits from the occupation. Go on that website. Those who don't have any numbers like 927, the projects that don't have any numbers on them, you can see which companies still profit from the occupation and boycott them. Ask your local supermarkets to not buy any Israeli products. So that's consumer in boycott.